The Chicago Cubs get out of Pittsburgh alive, while the White Sox did something only for the second time this year. They won the series at home. Yay! The Knicks and the Pacers are fit to be tied in the NBA playoffs, while the Mavericks and OKC are going back and forth. The Denver Nuggets prove they're still the world champions, and the Chicago Bears wrapped up their rookie mini camp over the weekend, and there's some good things, and we'll try to predict what's going to happen for the upcoming 2024 season. That and a whole lot more in a great special edition of Old School TV Monday at Second City Sports. The Monday edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Mr. Ken McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Ken McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are located on all podcast platforms. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza, we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Makino will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll give Lakina full powers to give you fools to be able to be about.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago, not now, but right now, live in the living color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you do not have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, just head up to Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we'll be providing you with some of the best here. Happy Monday on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll talk about the NBA and NHL playoffs as we got multiple series tied at 2 now on both fronts. We got a special edition of Old School TV Monday and so much more. Also, too, of course, the weekend in baseball as the Cubs get 2 out of 3 against the Pirates, while the Sox get 3 out of 4 against the Guardians. But first, Sid, let's do a little bit of Bears and NFL. We'll do Bears minicamp and get that out the way as Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, and the rest of the rookies, as well as some undrafted free agents, rookies, up at Hallis Hall, did a little workouts and stuff like that. Had a little bit of fun and not really too much kind of happened. So, it's really kind of like hard to sort of, make predictions, especially when it was non-tackle. It was just like working out and stuff. So it's just like, it was all over the league. So it wasn't really such a big deal, but it's nice to see some of the rookies, and some of the other various, teams. You saw Jane Daniels in Washington. You saw some of the Chargers and their great rookie class. So yeah, so it's sort of one of those things where you're just like, oh, okay. So if you weren't into it, then it's fine. But we'll just talk about it a little bit just to kind of, we get to the break because we got some other stuff, to talk about as well in the NFL. But so what do you think about from what you saw from Bears rookie mini camp, if anything?
Of course, it's a big deal here in Chicago because Caleb Williams is the new franchise quarterback, and big expectations is on him, especially after the whole Justin Fields situation, which led up to the trade went down. But as we talked about leading up to the draft, and we talked about it immediately right after the draft, Caleb Williams was polished for this. He faced the media once again over the weekend at Hallis Hall. He sounds like a confident young man. He's comfortable in his own skin. And you talked about being a leader and taking a constructive criticism. He says he's open to all ears, both positive and negatively in a criticism structure. And you like to hear that from your leader. And what the accounts that I saw and read throughout the weekend, he seems like a more convinced that he wants to be the guy here. Now, on the flip side, we all know that the Bears are under pressure this year, especially with head coach Matt Eberflus. From what I've read, he's in the daze with Caleb Williams, and rightfully so to a degree. I know he's got to be at least for 1 year, like I said, because we all know that Matt Eberflus, if he doesn't make the playoffs this year, he's going to be gone. So Matt Eberflus is stated he has a new hairstyle, new haircut, and so, like you said, it's the opposite of training camp. They're not hitting anybody. They're just going through drills. And one thing I wanted to bring up with you, Lakina, is that Caleb Williams is quarterback coach. He's been working with knowing Shane Waldron, the new Bears OC, for a few years. I saw him on one of the sports wrap-up shows here locally last night. He talked about how Caleb Williams was weeks ahead of the curve, even before he got drafted by the Bears and learned a new offense. It's still going to take him some time, but it's better to be ahead of the curve going into rookie minicamp now instead of cramming all in once he goes to training camp in mid-July.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of like one of those things where, of course, the coaches are going to say that you want to have your guy there to kind of like learn a playbook and everything else. So, like I said, I think for me, like I said, I didn't really like follow Bears rookie mini camp because, like I said, there's really nothing happening. As long as no one, I know Doomsday missed the last couple of days because of a hamstring injury, but look, that had happened. So for me, I think it's a sort of like, okay, look, everyone got out there unscathed. They had a little bit of fun, and we'll see what happens in a couple of months in July. So that's where I'm at. So look, I mean, yeah, we know he's a confident. I'm talking about was a very confident guy, and this. So for me, I'm keeping all my expectations. We're not going to say anything about it. So it is what it is.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here with you, talking Bears in the NFL right now. Lakina, before I try to stump myself, shoot myself in the mouth by predicting which opponents will get the prime time favoritism from the Bears this year, was there anything else that impressed you over the weekend as far as rookie mini camps around the league?
Like I said, nothing really happened. No one got injured. Everybody was able to kind of get it going. I saw Blake Corum's work out. So that was really cool to see. If you guys saw it, it's all over the social media there. So yeah, I mean, look, nothing really spectacular. Like I said, nobody got hurt. Everybody was on their best behavior. I think there's some teams. I think they already have all their guys signed. I think the Rams have most, not all their rookies signed. I think the Eagles also have most of not all their rookies signed. And I think the Commanders do as well. So I think that's really the big story here is that some of these rookie contracts are sort of stagnant for the most part. It's very typical. So you may add some things here and there. So yeah, I think that's really kind of like the thing for me is if you don't have to worry about the headaches of having to go through holdouts.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day, we had a few players that tried that way before, as you mentioned. I know Curtis Enos comes to mind. That the rookie contracts, of course, the salary cap in the league under that old financial structure was different back then. But like you said, just like the NBA, where you selected this is how much you're going to get paid. So you're not going to hold out for 90 million, 200 million, all that other stuff like it was way back when. So it is nice to see that the rookies are set and ready to go. As you said, the true test will come in training camp. How much did these guys work together in offseason? You started to see a whole lot more of that now, publicly at least anyway. And it's not like back in the day that you could come into training camp to get in shape to get ready for the season. It's an expectation you're already in shape and know the playbook because there's not a whole lot of time, especially the way the preseason is structured this year and going forward. forward is 3 preseason games from each team except for Houston and Chicago this year because they're in the Hall of Fame game. But there's not a lot of time you got to come in there and get ready to work because the regular season is just around the corner once you get into the training camp.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, there are not those off-season workouts like there were back in the day. So you have to come in shape. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll find out in a couple of months. Like I said, we'll be talking about it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. when the real training camp starts. Let's talk about the NFL schedule release. Well, for at least little leaks here and there. So the NFL made it official. It will be this Wednesday at 7 Chicago Central Time, 8 Eastern Time. It'll be both on NFL Network, on ESPN, also on the NFL Plus app. So for those of you who have that, to subscribe to that, you can check that out as well. Also, we already have our first game that will be shown on Thursday, September 5th. It'll be the rematch of the AFC title game. It'll be the Ravens and the Chiefs over at Arrowhead on NBC. So, and also streaming, of course, on the NFL Plus app. I'm sure it's going to be streaming on the Peacock as well. So, I'm sure in the next couple of days we'll be hearing about those certain schedule leaks, I guess, if you will. We talked about it with our girl Christine Manica from KXRB on Friday, how many primetime games will the Bears get? Will Bears and Lions be the one of the Thanksgiving Day games this season? Also, Netflix and all that. Whether or not they'll have a couple of Christmas Day games. So, what's your synopsis of all this, Sid?
As we always say, the NFL likes to keep themselves in the headlines all year round, and especially during this time where there's no football. I give them credit for this, and they've done it again. I don't know if you saw the piece that ESPN did last week looking about all 32 teams, their social media departments creating these hype videos for the schedule release. And I know the Los Angeles Chargers did a great job last year, along with the Bears. And of course, the Cowboys have used a whole lot of celebrities all over the Titans too. With the I don't know, they paid those folks to name those opponents in the wrong logo, but that was fun and creative as well. But the ESPN piece last week on SportsCenter, they talked about how this is their Super Bowl, talking about the social media departments of all 32 NFL teams to get creative and get fans engaged of the schedule release and just engaging with the fans and being creative. And I don't see nothing wrong with it. We're in a social media age, and you had to keep fans enticed and interested on your product.
Yeah, and I think that this is a great way for the social media people to be creative with all that stuff. We'll just see what those social media teams will have this year with their schedule releases and whatnot, especially with the new coaches in a lot of these places and with some of the star players we expect to be star players that are drafted. So I'm looking forward to see, of course, the games themselves, but how the social media folks, that's becoming a big thing as well. They're kind of in competition with each other to kind of we know the Chargers, they're going to, their social media people, they're always on point. So we'll see what they have in store. The Commanders is pretty good as well. They got the logo with the feather, which is a little bit weird, but I guess I'm sure there's a method to that. But looking forward to that. The games themselves is really not just the big the main course, but the dessert is definitely how the social media people are gonna showcase it.
I'm going to be interested to see what the Bears do. Will they actually involve Caleb Williams in this? We had a silly claw as part of the promotion. I won't be surprised if it did happen. And what celebrities would Chicago celebrities would they use to promote the Bears schedule? So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
And also, too, of course, you got Fox. Remember, they got the Super Bowl this year down in New Orleans, so it'll be interesting to see. I think they do their upfronts tomorrow. I think they do it tomorrow. The NBC did theirs today, and we see how much Tom Brady will be showcased during all of that. So that's what I'm looking forward to as well. With the various schedules and whatnot. That's another thing I'm looking forward to. And like I said, the various leagues. We know that the Bears are going to be playing in Europe. So we'll see. Will one of those games be? Will it be? Some people say it's going to be the Tampa game that might get that treatment. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how kind of all this sort of shakes down. And all questions. I'm sure we'll be getting leaks. Today, rest of the day, and tomorrow. But once it's all official, remember the Bears. They play the NFC West as well this year. So that's going to be interesting to see. We know that they host. I think Arizona. I think they go at San Francisco, so that's going to be interesting to see how that's going to shape out
Mm-hmm.
too. A lot
I won't be surprised if that's a primetime game. I'm calling it right now.
Well, you think that the Bears will play 5, right?
Mm-hmm. 2 Monday night, 2 Sunday night, and 1 Thursday night.
See, it's really good. Like I said, it's gonna. You remember the flexing thing is gonna be interesting too, because if the Bears don't do well early on, some of those games might get flexed out. So
yeah,
that's really gonna be the thing here. So I mean, maybe the Bears Commanders. Some people say that might be another Thursday night game. Maybe I'm sure it'll be better than the last year's Bears. That was just brutal to watch. That's said football back about 30 years. But yeah, I mean, everything will be answered leading up to Wednesday, up until Wednesday, and even on Wednesday itself.
Yep, so we'll see what happens there. You're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina hanging out here with you. We're going to do that baseball when we return. The Cubs take care of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and even though their rookie pitcher had something to say on Saturday, while the White Sox took 3 out of 4 from the Cleveland Guardians. And we'll go around the rest of the diamond. Like Lakina, I have a question about one of your adopted teams. That and a whole lot more. And some Monday edition of Second City Sports rolls on right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Good to see him back in the lineup. And the 1-0 hit in the air to deep left field. Back.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keenan's going in the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we roll along talking about the Cubs and the White Sox and the rest of MLB, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Good to see him back in the lineup. And the 1-0 hit in the air to deep left field. Back goes Reynolds to the wall. It's got a chance. Gone. 2-run home run. Christopher Morel. Cubs lead 2-0.
That's home run number 9 on the season for Morel. If the knee's a little sore and you don't want to run, then just go for a nice easy jog around the bases. It's a good game plan.
On the first inning, Connor Joe leads off the second. Connor Joe is out on strikes. First strikeout for Hendricks today. And the 2-2. Got him swinging. Back-to-back strikeouts for Kyle Hendricks. Ground ball left side, base hit left field. Rounding third, heading home. Here comes Suzuki. The throw to the plate, not in time. Cubs lead. Bellinger in a rundown. Being run towards second. Cody now hustling back toward first, and they're going to tag him out. But it is.
And those highlights were courtesy of Marquee Network. Of course, you heard Pat Hughes, and a little bit of Ron Cooper on the call there with Jim Deshaies, JD, as the Cubs, squeaked by a 2-3 season series win against series win, I should say, against the Pirates. So that should definitely help them. Kyle Hendricks had his best outing easily this season. So I think he only had like 4 walks and 1 earned run. So if you're Hendricks, I think, I'm sure you can definitely build on that. There was a little bit of some little going on there, but on Saturday, especially with his Cubs, were able to pull that out late. But the good news is, you got the series win, and you got a pretty tough schedule coming up against Atlanta. So starting tonight. So I think if you're the Cubs, would a sweep would have been nice, sure, but look, you took 2 out of 3. That's all you can ask for.
I'll talk about Kyle Hendricks first. I thought it was a good enough performance yesterday. Was it as dominant as it has that we expected him throughout his whole career? No, but it was good enough. And I thought that early 2-0 lead helped Kyle Hendricks settle down. And he was on fire early, but if you notice, between the end of the 4th and the 5th inning, the pitch count was starting to take a toll on him. He started walking guys, but thank goodness it really didn't come back to bite the Cubs in the butt. As you mentioned, he had 4 walks, but he also had 5 strikeouts. And gave up that home run to O'Neal Cruz in the 4th inning. But I thought it was a solid outing for what he's been through this year, so it was a good enough job. But you like the way the Cubs fought back in the 10th inning, taking the lead. And that Patrick Wisdom home run turned out to be the difference, Lakina, because Albert Alzolay, along with those other relievers that couldn't get the job done before, I'm talking about the Cubs bullpen, but Albert Alzolay was the last man standing. He got the job done to nail down the win for the Cubs in extra innings. Now, that Saturday game was where Paul Skeens, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the number 1 prospect for the Pittsburgh Pirates, that game was sold out. He was, like I said, he was the number 1 pick out of LSU. And I thought he did okay as a rookie, but you could tell that he was still nervous. And the Cubs actually got back in the game, drawing 6 walks in the inning. And, of course, he had that long 3-hour rain delay. And then former White Sox player, Yasmani Grandal, had the game-winning home run. Go figure, right? That was the only loss in that series for the Cubs. But the Cubs showed themselves proud this weekend. We all know about the questions about their bullpen. But as we always say, when you're not playing your best, you still got to find ways to win ball games, and that's what the Cubs did in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Yeah, a lot of guys stepped up. You saw that Chris Morel home run. Ian Happ saved the Azolay's butt in that Friday game that preserved that win that 5-4 win. So I think if you're that could only help Azolay's confidence, because I know he's been a little bit shaky lately. So again, was it the prettiest 2 out of 3s? But look, you'll take it though. And I think if you're the Cubs, you gotta be feeling pretty good where you're at right now. You're going down to Atlanta, which they've been kind of up and down lately. You don't have to face Max Fried, so that should help their confidence a little bit there. So the Cubs actually been pretty decent in Atlanta in recent years. So we'll see. We'll talk about Atlanta and excuse me. easy for me to talk. We'll talk about it. Easy for me to talk, right? But yeah, we'll talk about Atlanta in a second. But let's go to the south side of things for the White Sox, and they did something that they haven't done in a while against the Guardians this weekend.
2 outs. 2-2. Did he go? Yes, he did. Strike 3. Scott Berry, the third base umpire, sends Ramirez back to his dugout.
With a home run.
3-2. Vaughn shoots one right side, slicing and down in front. He'll make the big turn and head to second. Will Brennan scoops it up. It's a 1-out double for Andrew for Fry. 0-2. Shot to Ramos and caught head high.
Kid's showing a lot of great reactions over there at third base.
He just took away a hit. Fry hits it right on the nose, and Brian Wright did.
Chopped to third. Vaughn had to back up onto the outfield grass. Good feed to the pitcher, though. 2-0.
And those courtesy of NBC Sports Chicago. Good to see. It's good to hear Len Casper to go back on doing television. Also, we saw Connor McKnight as well. So good to see them those guys occasionally. But 3 out of 4 for the White Sox against the Guardians. Unfortunately, that game yesterday they were shut out 7-0. Showed a little bit back to those bad habits, back to where they really are. But I guess we were talking to our buddy Jordan Lazowski of Sox the 35th. We got to get him back on this season, but I said they're entertainingly bad. I mean, they're Corey Lee's been doing some big things. Of course, Andrew Vaughn, his first home run in seems like forever. And also too, the pitch has actually been okay for the White Sox. So I guess they're not terrible, but they're entertaining. Bad entertaining. I guess that's a good thing.
The White Sox are 9-6 in their last 15 games. As you mentioned, they took 3 out of 4 from the Guardians this past weekend here in Chicago. The Friday game, the performance of Garrett Crochet was remarkable. 11 strikeouts. Clearly, he's your number one guy. I know Eric Fetty bounced back the other night on Thursday. We talked about it last Friday on the show with a good enough performance to let the White Sox win the first game of that series. But Mike Clevenger made his second start of the year as he's trying to get back. He was signed late. He did a good enough job for the White Sox, and of course the bullpen with Jordan Leisure and Michael Kopech did the rest last Saturday night and to preserve the third win of that series. So the White Sox is getting it done with pitching right now. Their team overall bullpen is, I believe, around 3.5 ERA. As a team, they're getting it done with pitching. And as I mentioned on the show, Lakina, last week, I'll mention it again. We all love to see the home runs, but it's nice to see you getting it done without relying on the home runs all the time. I know Luis Robert Jr. is not in the lineup. I know that Eloy is there for power purposes. I know Johan Makana is not there, but it's nice to see the Sox score some runs without hitting a home run, relying on the home run, I should say.
Well, yeah, in the early days there, Stephen Voigt, of course, had that drop, so that kind of helped us, the Sox, in that Thursday game. But look, they took advantage of it, and that's all you can ask for of your Sox, man. Look, they'll be facing the Nationals starting tonight, so we'll see if they can. And the Nationals actually been they haven't been as bad either, so it'll be interesting to see how this will kind of shake out. So this should be an interesting series. Over at G-Rate. So, this is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you now. Probably the hottest team.
Oh, real quick, Lakina. Real quickly, before we move on. I want to pull a Tom Johnny. Can I do that for at least 1 minute?
Go ahead.
Okay. Usually we don't like to do shout-outs on the show, but I wanted to give a special shout-out if I can. Of course, as you know, if you follow me on social media, I was there on last Saturday for the tailgate from the Chicago Sports Bums and also the guys and gals from the Section 108. They did a tremendous job. Shout out to Chef Ruddy as well. The barbecue brisket was phenomenal. The pulled pork was phenomenal. And the cornbread was phenomenal. And from what I saw, because I had to head inside right before the game to do some content, play-by-play man, TV play-by-play man John Striffen came down for a visit, took some pictures with the fans, and He chopped it up with the guys and gals from the tailgate. If you saw the broadcast last Saturday, he gave the sports buns and the guys and gals from the 108 a shout out during the broadcast as well. And even the White Sox mascot Southpaw made an appearance. It was getting hot out there last Saturday, Lakina. I wish you were there, but we had a good time for one and all. It was crowded, it was packed. So if you guys missed it, you can go to my social media at SidKid80 on Twitter, X, and have all the evidence right there. So I just want to give Chef Ruddy, the Chicago Sports Buns, and the guys and gals from the 108 a big shout out. It was a great time in Lot B last Saturday afternoon.
Good time had by all, I'm sure. You got a decent series win against the Guardians. Now we can go into the rest of baseball. Staying in the AL Central, probably the hottest team in MLB are the Twins. They've now won 17 of their last 20 for the first time since 2008. And it's also the first time they've won 6 consecutive series, including that sweep against the White Sox a couple of weeks ago. Their first time winning.
You had to.
It's the truth. I mean, that's their 6 consecutive series. Well, look, I mean, it's the first time since 2010 they've won 6 consecutive series, and it's been a nice little balance play there for the Guardians. And I'm sure they're thanking the White Sox for helping them gain some ground.
Yeah, we all talked about the Minnesota Twins being one of those teams that play fundamentally sound baseball, and they're financially constrained due to their current situation with their Valley Sports Regional. But that's a whole nother story. But on the field, you still have Carlos Correa. You still had Carlos Santana, who had a big hit yesterday. You still have Byron Buxton. They're splitting time with him between him playing the outfield and DH as he's getting older. But Bailey Ober had a good performance yesterday. I've been questioning their starting pitching for the last couple of years. I know that Sonny Gray isn't there anymore, but Bailey Ober stepped up yesterday. He had 6 in the third innings with 10 strikeouts, and it was a great performance by the Twins. They tacked on some runs late, and you mentioned they got the series win. On the flip side, Toronto, I don't know what's going on with them, Lakina. We talk about them all the time. They got the offense, and it looks like they had the pitching on paper outside of Kevin Gossman and Jose Barrios. But Alex Manoah, who's been having his struggles over the last year and a half, he actually pitched well yesterday, but the offense did not back him up.
Yeah, and I think that's really been the problem. You thought that maybe the Blue Jays would be challenging, and that maybe not in the AL East, but definitely challenging one of the wild cards. But they've been struggling. Mm-hmm. Is it a managerial thing? Is it a GM thing? I mean, it's you would think they'd be up there. They would be up there where Boston is right now in third place in that division, mm-hmm. but unfortunately, that's not the case. So I don't know, but yeah, staying in that division. Baltimore, they went 2 out of 3 against Arizona, and they had a tough one. The Diamondbacks there could avoid the sweep, but look, Jordan Westburg's his go-ahead single in the 11th. They helped get the Orioles get the win in the Saturday's game. So for me, I know it's been a little bit sloppy there, but they were able to kind of pull it off. And this is what you're supposed to do. You get pushed by a really good team, and you were able to kind of pull out the series win.
Yeah, you take 2 out of 3 against the National League, the National League champions who appeared in the World Series last year. If you're a team like Baltimore, as we talk about all the time, we talk about their offense, you know the names by now, but their starting pitching looks like it's starting to come around a bit, and their bullpen has been solid, led by veteran Craig Kimbrell. So for Baltimore, they just learning how to win games and learn how to win games when things are not going your way, and taking care of opponents, like you said, that's on your schedule, taking care of them the way you're supposed to, and that's what this young team is doing right now.
See, they can keep it up. They actually play the Blue Jays starting tomorrow, so we'll see what happens there. The Yankees, they won 2 out of 3 against the Rays, and I think for me, if you're the Yankees, you gotta be feeling pretty good of where you're at right now. You're a half game back, so it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of they're right there to think of it in that AL East.
It's all about the offense for the Bronx Bombers. We talk about Aaron Judge. We talk about Giancarlo Stanton. We talk about Juan Soto, who's made a big difference on this team thus far. But the only thing that's concerning right now, if you're the Yankees, is their starting pitcher. Of course, Carlos Rodon has been up and down. Talk about Nestor Cortez, who had a career year a couple of years ago. It looks like he's finally starting to come around a little bit. So if the Yankees can get consistent starting pitching, I think they'll be okay. I know they're without Garrett Cole right now. He's supposed to return later on this season. So the Yankees, as long as they can have their main guys I just mentioned injury-free, I think they'll be okay.
gonna be interesting once they and the Orioles start facing each other. That's good. That should be a fun one when they start doing that. The Red Sox, I should say, they take a 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. The White Sox next opponents. Going to the AL West, the Mariners.
The Mariners.
Look, they win 2 out of 3 against the A's, and it was a hard fought, especially Sunday's game. They dominated the first 2 with the same score, 8-1, but got a little bit of a push. But yeah, they were able to, a lot of with the batting and stuff. Of course, Julio Rodriguez, Mitch Garver, their pitch has been very solid as well for them. So look, they're right there with Texas. So we'll see.
Yeah, we talked about the Mariners starting pitching. Lincoln has been up and down their bullpen the same way, but Luis Castillo pitched a heck of a game yesterday. I got a chance to watch some of that once as soon as I got home for the Sox game. But their offense, Seattle's offense, when it's on, they could challenge anybody. I know they don't have a bunch of power hitters, but you mentioned Julio Rodriguez and Mitch Garver. Don't forget about some of the other no-name guys that they're blanking on me right now, but Mitch Garver, and don't forget about Ty France as well. That's the other guy, Ty France. He comes up with big hits as well. But their offense is good. But like I said, consistent starting pitcher will be the key for me. And Luis Castillo, as I mentioned, he pitched 6 innings yesterday, no walks and 8 strikeouts.
Yeah, that's a big. He really needed that out because he had been struggling the last couple of starts.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely needed that outing over the weekend. Now staying in the West, the Rangers got swept by the lonely Colorado Rockies. Yeah. I mean, they were playing at Coors Field. They're not used to. I think it's like their 3rd or 4th time playing in the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, I mean. No, but I'm sure Rangers fans should be freaking out. I mean, look, it's a season. You always look. I mean, the Sox won 3 out of 4 against the Guardians, I should say. So, we get these kind of weird things that happen. It happens. All the weirdness of the longest 162 game season.
I'm sure Colorado had the biggest crowds of the year. And shout out our girlfriend, friend of the show, Susie Hunter, who covers the Rockies for DNVR. So I'm sure she had a good time this weekend.
Yeah, I guess we
got to back on the show.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm sure they finally got something to cheer about over there in Colorado. You beat the world champ. You beat the world champs. Now, probably another one of the hottest teams in the league is the Phillies. They did lose last night to the Marlins. They're not getting the sweep, but look, I mean they've been playing very well lately. So it's. Again, you're right there with the Braves for in the NL East, and of course, Bryson Scott had that bases clearing our triple to kind of help give them that their Saturday game. Their hitting's been really good. Their pitching's been very solid. Of course, I know Shore was a little bit banged up with that back injury, but you really didn't need him against the Marlins, so you let him rest up a little bit. So Suarez had a good outing on Friday, so. Yeah, I mean, look at the Phillies looking good so far.
Yeah, as we said earlier about Baltimore, you take care of the teams you're supposed to take care of business against, and that's what the Philadelphia Phillies did. I talk about the top 3 offenses in the National League with the Cubs, the Braves, and the Dodgers. Let's add a 4th one in the Philadelphia Phillies. You mentioned Kyle Schwarber dealing with a back injury right now, but Bryce Harper is still the goods, and don't forget about Trey Turner as well. And don't forget about that catcher too, JT Realmuto. He's a good one as well behind the backstop.
Yeah, he's really good. So I'm liking how they're playing so far. So should be fun how that goes. Now speaking of Atlanta, interesting series against the Mets. They went 2 out of 3. Now they had a no-hitter on Saturday. Well, combined no-hitter going into the 9th. Of course, JD Martinez got his first home run as a Met. Party pooper there, but 4-1, 4-3. Of course, they lose that ruined the chance of getting the sweep. But even though Ronald Acuna Jr. He was picked off twice in that game, in that yesterday's game. He's the first former MLB MVP winner to be picked off twice in a game. You got to go way back to 1977 with Joe Morgan did that versus Houston. Also, Max Fried had a solid outing into that combined no-hitter, 6+ innings with no hits allowed twice in a span of the 3 appearances. You got to go way back to Johnny Vandermeer, who did it, back to back, all the way back in 1938. But do you wonder it's good with no Spencer Strider for the rest of the season? It's kind of going to be a little bit of a struggle for the Braves. So they gotta have to make sure Acuna and all those guys are kind of like right there in the thick of it in the NL East, because Philly's not going away.
Yeah, and like you said, the pitching's got to step up to Max Fried. Like you said, the Cubs are going to miss him in this series. Like you said, he did the job last Saturday afternoon. But Chris Sale, watch out for him. I believe he's 5-0 right now. He beat the Red Sox, one of his former teams, last week. So I believe he's going to pitch in this Cubs series coming up. So the Cubs have to watch out for him. So it's got to be him, Charlie Morton, and of course Max Fried's got to pick it up. He did that on Saturday. Let's see if he can continue. Like you said, they're going to be without Spencer Strider for the rest of the year. So maybe their front office will make a move to get another starting pitcher on the July 30th deadline, but we'll see.
Off to Central in the NL, 2 out of 3 for the Brewers over the Cardinals. The Brewers, we'll see if they're still going to be like right there with the Cubs. So we'll see if they can kind of stay right there with the Cubs in that NL Central. But
I don't know how they're doing it, to be honest with you.
I mean, you wonder, like, will they be like the Pirates? Will they kind of like just fade away? I mean, I would say give it about a month before I even take them seriously. I mean, they don't like, you're kind of like, the newness of everything. They got a new manager. They got a, basically a brand new team. The fact that they're still doing it, you got to, such a remarkable. I kind of wonder whether or not they're going to be able to keep it up.
Yeah, like we said, the Milwaukee Brewers are built on pitching and starting pitching in their bullpen. Their offense is just good enough to get by. I know you said really Adames there, so and Christian Yelich is still hanging on for dear life, but it's all about the basics and the fundamentals for the Milwaukee Brewers. And right now, they're doing it very well, and they're barely leading the NL Central over the Cubs. But I'm sure they're going to drop off at some point. I don't think it's going to be a disaster like many fans want it to happen, but I think if you play just fundamentally sound baseball, you're going to give yourself a chance. So it's going to be a race, as we know right now, between them and the Cubs for the foreseeable future.
Going to the West, as the Dodgers and the Padres. The Padres do win the series again, 2 out of 3. Including pitchers duel between Tyler Glasnow and Michael King. First game in which both pitchers they had I think just over 7 innings. I think Glasnow had 11 strikeouts. King had 10. But they didn't allow any hits. So unfortunately, the Padres ended up winning that game. But I think if you're the Padres, you got to win these series, but you got to worry about the other series as well. I mean, so far you actually had the Dodgers number this season, but everyone else has been what you've been having a problem with. You're still only 1 game above 500.
Yeah, for the Padres, I know you said the Dodgers are the main rivals, but you got to take care of business against everybody else too. So that's 2 series wins for the Padres over the Dodgers this year. 1 in LA last month, and of course, what happened over the weekend at home. But on the flip side for the Dodgers, I know they've been on a hot streak lately. I wouldn't get too upset. I know the offense didn't show up yesterday. They got shut out 4-0. But if you're the Dodgers fan, you're not too upset by this. At least if you're a rational Dodgers fan. I know expectations are very high, but you shouldn't be too upset about this. This happens.
Yeah, and also too, I think I think Shohei took a couple of those games off. So I think for people to kind of they were freaking out. Oh my God, stop! Guys, it's okay. We're only in mid-May, folks. It's fine. Going into this week's series, Toronto and Baltimore, as I mentioned earlier, that should be a fun series. Miami and Detroit. A little bit of NL East rivals. You got the Mets hosting the Phillies. That should be a fun one there after that tough series loss to the Braves. Rays and Red Sox. It's always a fun one when those 2 teams play each other. The Cubs, they begin their series against Atlanta, and Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. We'll see if they can knock each other out in that NL Central.
Now, of course, the Washington Nationals will visit the south side of Chicago to take on the White Sox starting tonight. You may see a doubleheader tomorrow because rain is expected in the area tonight. So be on the lookout for that for those of you that are headed out to the game on the south side tonight. Other series that are starting today, Cleveland's at Texas. Oakland is at Houston. That should be a fun one. St. Louis Cardinals will continue their road trip, but they'll head out west to take on the LA Angels. Colorado will play San Diego. Cincinnati, who lost 2 out of 3 at San Francisco, they'll visit Arizona. And Your Seattle Mariners will host a surprising Kansas City Royals who are 25-17. And the Dodgers, speaking of the Dodgers, they'll travel to San Francisco to take on the Giants, those two hated rivals doing battle for 2024.
The Yankees and the Twins. The first game of that series will be on TBS tomorrow, and I think we got the rest of the series. Oh, Colorado and San Diego. They start off their series as well. Other games. Oh, Prime Video. The second game of that Yankees Twins series will be on Prime Video. It's special for all fans of Yankees and Twins. So that'll be on Wednesday. So you won't be able to actually watch your respective. This is part of the new TV deal that they got going on. So there will be one game a week that Prime Video will be streaming one of these MLB games. So I'll look out for that for all Yankees and Twins fans.
Yeah, so like I said, the Yankees have been doing it with Amazon Prime for the last 3 years. For those of you that had the MLB TV package like I do, it will re-air 90 minutes after the conclusion of the game. So you want to watch it live, you have to be in the New York City tri-state area to watch that game. Everybody else can watch it afterwards if you have the MLB TV package like yours truly does. And that's your schedule for the MLB for this upcoming week.
All right, hour number 1 in the books. Boy, it went by quick. Hour number 2 coming up here on CNC Sports on Sports Chicago, right? Of course, NBA playoffs. We got not one but 2 series tied at 2. Mm-hmm. Also, too, of course, we got a lot of our viewers that wanted to hear about us do hockey, so we will talk about that. As some series are tied last night. Also, too, we got our first couple of games for NBC. Big Ten action in Saturday night, old school TV Monday, and a whole lot more. So a lot more fun to do still here in the second hour coming up in Second City Sports from Chicago. Lakina McGee, City Brown. More fun coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keena Scrogan IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we roll into the NBA playoffs, talk and maybe squeeze in a little Bulls, and we'll do the hockey too. You can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color, and you can do it right now on Roku TV.
Yes. And speaking of the NBA playoffs, let's talk about last night's game. Of course, Denver and Minnesota. Denver is now tied the series at 2 apiece. Aaron Gordon had 27, which is a playoff high for him. Nikola Jokic did his thing. 35 points and 7 assists. Jamal Murray, still a bit banged up, but he still had 19 points, including a great half quarter at the end of the first half with the stare down with Kevin Harlan, which was stuff of legends there has now become a meme. So if you guys didn't see it, I don't know where you guys been, but check that out. Various social media channels now. On the flip side for Minnesota, of course, Anthony Edwards did his thing with a career high 44, but he didn't get a lot of help. Cats 5 for 18. Where are you, dude? Rudy Gobert. Yeah. Look, I know you just had your first child, but you gave up a lot of rebounds. You have 14 rebounds, but you need to do more on the scoring shot, buddy. Hello. So Mike Conley, 15 points. He could have done a little bit more as well. So for me, I think, look, Anthony Edwards needs help, you guys. I think that's unfortunate. But what do you think about the series?
Jamal Murray has stepped up so far, even though he had 19 points last night. You saw what he did on Friday in Game 3. Nikola Jokic looks like he's back to being his old self. And Aaron Gordon, is who I called out on our show last Friday, he needed to step up, but he did that yesterday, as Lakina mentioned, with 27 points for the game. On the flip side for Minnesota, Anthony Edwards is the man. I know he took personal responsibility for them struggling after last Friday night's loss in Game 3. But Naz Reid, the backup center for the Timberwolves, I've been very impressed by him. He was the only one that gave the Timberwolves any consistency coming off the bench. He had 11 points, but the foul troubles of Karl Anthony Towns was I thought another main star. I'm not going to sit here and blame the referees for the Timberwolves losing those 2 games at home. Clearly, Denver outplayed Minnesota both games, especially last Friday in Game 3. But the foul trouble on Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert have been a big factor. One big factor why Denver has turned it around. But let's be honest here, Minnesota is not making his shots. Denver has, and Denver is playing more like the world champions, unlike the first 2 games in this series. So as of these last 2 games, Denver has wanted it more.
Yeah, and I think we'll see. I mean, they do get a couple of days off, so this will give Minnesota a chance to regroup. So if you're Chris Finch, I don't know how much he's actually with his knee issues. I don't know how much he's actually chiming in, but you gotta think that you gotta go back to the drawing board if you're Minnesota. You gotta have guys like Gobert and Cat. They all have to step up. So Anthony Edwards is doing fine. He's not the problem. He needs help. So we need to see the team that we saw. Now we're just to see how kind of all this sort of plays out, because they play tomorrow, so there's not a short turnaround. So you got to hope that maybe Minnesota. Look, no one's won each other's home court yet. So if Minnesota, you try to get that win in Denver tomorrow, you've been able to dominate, make some adjustments. So hopefully we can kind of see, because if you don't want to let Denver get hot. So they Cat, Gobert, Conley Jr., the rest of those guys have to step up and help out Edwards.
And Josh McDaniels as well. So we'll see what those guys do. Of course, this is a pivotal. Any Game 5 of a best of 7 game series is a pivotal one. Obviously, the series is tied up at 2 games apiece. As you mentioned, Denver has the momentum winning 2 games in Minnesota. Yes, the Timberwolves have confidence to win in Denver. They did so in the first 2 games. But like you said, none of that matters now. I believe it's a one-game take-all. Whoever wins this game tomorrow night, in my opinion, they're going to win this series. So Minnesota, like you said, they got to stay out of foul trouble, and they got to be more aggressive on the defensive end. They did that the first two games. They did not do that over the weekend.
Yeah, they got to get back to that because Jokic is making too many shots, easy shots. So where's the body? Where's the rebound? I know you don't want to, for you might get fouled for touching Jokic, but you were able to do it in your first two games in Denver. So they got to get it going there too if they want to stop the bleeding. Going to the Eastern Conference, another series that's tied at 2. You got the Pacers and the Knicks, and 121-89 from yesterday. And let's be honest, the score doesn't make it's sort of there were a lot of garbage points late. So a lot of injury. I know people want to blame the injuries and such, but if we want to, let's be honest here, Sid. The Pacers should be up 3-1 right now, but again, but yeah, I mean, the Pacers, they've been able to kind of find that balance scoring. Of course, Halliburton's done his thing, but Siakam's been doing his thing. Miles Turner's been okay, but it's really been their bench. And yesterday it was Mr. TJ McConnell. He had 15 points, including 2 for 2 from 3. So if you're the Pacers, you're kind of like, okay, let's get back going here. They play it again tomorrow, and let's see if they can kind of try to take control of the series.
I'm glad you brought up CJ McConnell because he's been a pest in the New York Knicks backcourt throughout the whole series, and it's finally showing up as far as in the win column for the Indiana Pacers. Have you noticed something that I'll get to the New York Knicks side of things in a moment, but have you noticed, Lakina, after the disappointing 9-point performance in Game 1, Tyrese Halliburton has been on fire ever since?
I think you kind of wonder. I'm sure they're probably smart in the fact that they let that game get away. Like I said, I think they should be up 3-1 right now. And look, I mean, Halliburton's kind of taking over and doing what you're supposed to do. I mean, look, McConnell's been a pest since he was at Arizona. If you saw him in Arizona, he was a little bit of a pest back then. So he's probably played exactly how you want. And Obi Toppin trying to stick to his former team, with 14 points off the bench as well. He's been helping out. So look, if you're Indiana, this is how you're going to have to be able to beat the Knicks in their own game. They're 45% from 3, which is very solid. You want to try to kind of see if you can make just the defensive stops and kind of pour it on the Knicks and don't let them up. Brunson on the other side for New York, I mean, he needs to get it going. You got to wonder how much is he starting to kind of let out of gas. He was 0 for 5 from 3 and just wasn't hitting the shots that you thought that he would hit those last couple of games. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it's a pivotal Game 5 tomorrow too at MSG.
Yeah, the Knicks had a chance to steal Game 3 last Friday night. They came on short, as you mentioned. I think that, along with fatigue yesterday, played a factor. I know the Pacers were at home for the last 2 games. You could tell everybody on that roster felt energized playing in front of their home crowd. The Knicks got out hustle, outmanned, and you could tell they're fatigued while Indiana took advantage of that, and they ran up and down the floor with the New York Knicks. They made all the majority of their shots, and they really took the momentum back from the New York Knicks. Like you said, the Pacers should be up 3-1 right now, but we'll see what happens going to MSG. And let's be honest, Lakina, I think the Knicks will win the game tomorrow, but it's not for certain that they're going to do it because they're shorthanded, they're fatigued. Indiana has all the confidence right now. And we talked about rebounding was the key in the last series in terms of the New York Knicks against Philadelphia, and they did that. They haven't done it in these last 2 games. And yesterday proved that with the 52-43 advantage that the Pacers had in the rebound department. So if the Knicks want to get back in this series, besides making their shots, they really got to control the boards. The Indiana Pacers have done that these last 2 games.
Should be a fun one here. This is like a Sports on Sports from Chicago. Keena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Let's preview these games tonight. Of course, you got both these are Game 4s. You got Boston and Cleveland. Boston's up 2-1, and I think for me, staying in Cleveland. I mean, Boston, you're kind of got back to a little bit of a dominant form against Cleveland a couple of days ago on Saturday, but you wonder could that kind of play a little bit of a factor here? We're going to see the Boston where they're going to take a game off every once in a while, and Cleveland's able to take advantage.
Yeah, you wonder about that if you're a Celtics fan. Of course, they learned their lesson in last series after dropping Game 2 at home to Miami. They won the rest of the games to close out the series in 5. But as I said last Friday, I think things will be a little bit different. I think the Celtics will win this series, but I think it will be in 6 games for Cleveland. You need to get off to a better start, and you need to play better defensively. I like what Evan Mobley did on Saturday. I know Donovan Mitchell carried the team, but other guys like Darius Garland and Karis LeVert are going to have to step up, and it's got to be a consistent effort on both ends of the floor. Now, on the flip side for Boston, you like what they did last Saturday night. Jason Tatum won 33 points. Jaylen Brown did his thing as well. He had 28 points. And we talked about their bench. You really didn't get much from Boston's bench this go around. I know Sam Howell had 6 points. Pritchard had 5, including that almost logo 3. But I'm still holding out that Cleveland's going to extend this series. I think they'll win tomorrow, but I'm still worried about Boston's bench going forward. I know it's the playoffs. You play the majority of your guys 40-plus minutes, but someone out there bench for Boston is going to have to step in and be consistent, because you can't keep – I know Kristaps Porzingis is out, but you can't keep riding your starters and expect them to carry you. It just doesn't – it's not going to work in the long run. And with one of your starters being now, someone is going to have to step up big time from that bench.
Remember what I said earlier this season that Boston, that bench or lack of, they didn't –
yeah.
I mean, they didn't. You would think that during the trade deadline they would have gotten a couple of fifth or sixth, 7 guys off the bench. They didn't do that, so you hope that doesn't come back to bite them in the butt. And Brown and Tatum wear themselves out. So I'm interested to see what happens with that. Now, another pivotal game for the Mavs are up 2-1 against OKC, and for me, I think, look, the Mavs, they got to, keep it going. I know Luka's a little bit banged up. PJ Washington had his best showing in the playoffs in his career. Derrick Rozier has been very good. They need to keep that going. Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. They got to help out Kyrie. Now, on the flip side for OKC, you wonder, like, they needed, outside of SGA and Williams and Holmgren, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, all those guys are going to have to step up. Gordon Hayward, he has some playoff experience. That's why they brought him here, but he needs to step up a little bit as well. Andrew Wiggins, was very solid. He could do a little bit more. So it's really going to depend on will experience ultimately be the thing in this series.
And also, too, the rebounding. Of course, Dallas is one of the best rebounding teams in the league. They had a +7 rebounding advantage on Saturday afternoon, 48-41. But Oklahoma City, just as simple looking, they got to knock down shots, and they didn't do that from 3 days. Shot the ball at a 33% clip. I know they shot the ball overall at 46%, which isn't bad, but they like to shoot the three very well, and they failed to do that last Saturday afternoon, shooting 10 of 30. So Oklahoma City's got to start knocking down shots with some consistency, and they're going to have to play some type of defense, because Dallas has that number in that department right now. Let's not forget about Kyrie Irving. I know Luka is questionable for tonight's game, dealing with a knee and an ankle, but let's not forget about Kyrie Irving. He made some big baskets in the last game. You're talking about veteran experience overall for the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie Irving is the leader in that, and he made some big shots down the stretch like Saturday afternoon.
Oh boy, it's gonna be interesting to see if that kind of goes there, because it's gonna be pivotal here. Anything else before we go into the schedule?
Let's go into the schedule and then get into that little draft lottery.
Oh boy, I'll be honest, I forgot about that draft lottery until I forgot it was early this year. It was right before the Knicks Pacers.
The conference final, yep.
Yeah, so I digress. Tonight, both these games will be on TNT. The doubleheader. You got Boston and Cleveland at 6, and OKC will try to tie up this series against Dallas also at 8:30, also on TNT.
Tomorrow, Tuesday, the TNT doubleheader looks like this. Game 5 at MSG between the Pacers and Knicks will air at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. The best of 7 series is tied at two games apiece. It will be followed by Timberwolves and Nuggets in Denver at 9:30 p.m. Chicago time. That's also airing on TNT. That best of 7 series in the Western Conference is tied up at 2 games apiece. Both pivotal Game 5s tomorrow night.
Should be fun. Also, you got both game 5s till Wednesday night, both on TNT. It's a TNT theme here this time. Cleveland and Boston, that's 6 o'clock. And of course, Dallas and OKC. We'll see where both these series are. Will it be clinching games? Will it be games that force will be pivotal Game 5s? We'll have to wait and see.
And of course, on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN, it will be Game 6 between Denver and Minnesota. who will lead in this series with a chance to close out that series.
And that is your schedule for
And
this
that's your
week.
schedule for the NBA playoffs for this upcoming week.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Keena McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Now, speaking of the NBA draft lottery, I should say, the Atlanta Hawks got the number 1 pick in somewhat of a little bit of an upset. Washington, Houston, San Antonio, and Detroit. Those are your top 5. Now, where are the Bulls, you ask? You gotta go. It's number 11. We're number 11. So, I know for people were wondering, like, did beating Atlanta really? It really didn't do too much. I mean, it was just basically like luck that Atlanta got the number 1 pick, even though they were up there in the play-in part of it. So, well, what'd you think?
When I read the notification on my phone, I know that Atlanta had the worst odds next to the Bulls or getting the number 1 pick. I know some Bulls fans were upset via social media, but as I always say, you can take that with a grain of salt. But I know this is an underhyped, undermanned class this year. I know it's headed by Bronny James, LeBron's son, and one of the reports that I read today, he plans on staying in the draft lottery. So we'll see if the Lakers can sneak in there and take LeBron James' son to make LeBron happy, but we'll talk about that angle down the road. But what do you do if you're the Atlanta Hawks? Will you trade that number 1 pick to get some veterans in there to help out Trae Young, or would you trade Trae Young with that number 1 pick to perhaps the Lakers to appease LeBron? There's a lot of decisions to be made here. So if you're Atlanta, who are you going to draft? Is assuming that you're going to keep Trae Young, or do you trade that pick along with Trae Young to the Lakers or some other contending team?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about that. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do because, like you said, Sid, I mean, they could package it to maybe get Bronny, give it to the Lakers, and so some veteran guys, get rid of some of those guys off the roster. Or, like you said, I mean, do you add Trae Young to the pick to that trade? So it'll be interesting to see what they do because I think that's going to be the number 1 question because I don't think they're going to stay at 1. I just don't see it because, like you said, there's really not. I mean, other than Bronny, I know it was Zach Edey, but you're not going to take him at 1. So, you wonder, like, okay, what's going to be the thing? You got Quinn Snyder. I'm sure he's going to have his say on what they should do as well. So we'll be able to see what Atlanta does. It's going to be very fascinating this next month.
Assuming they don't trade that pick to help out LeBron James and the Lakers, which probably won't happen, how much is that number 1 pick worth if you decide to trade it? Like I said, it's not a huge draft class this year. So how much is that number 1 pick really worth if the Hawks decide to trade it? How much value does it truly have?
Well, like you said, I mean, if you add Trae Young in there, that might pique some teams' interests, perhaps, to make it a little bit more enticing.
That's the only way.
That's probably the only way they'll be able to do it if you're Atlanta. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of what would you do?
That's $1 million question, right? But if you pair up Trae Young with the number 1 pick, I want to see what I can get. If you can get a veteran player back, and you'll probably have to take on some dead contracts. It depends on who else is in the deal. It's not just Trae Young, the number 1 pick. There's had to be some other players involved. But I'll put it out there to see what I can get. If it knocks me off my feet, shout out Dunner Jones, singer here from Chicago back in the 90s. But if the deal makes sense for our franchise, basically you're saying to your fan base if you're Atlanta that you're starting over, you trade Trae Young and the number 1 pick. So, but if you're trying to trade the number 1 pick by itself, I don't think it's going to have much value. So the Hawks are in a tough spot, and thank goodness I'm not in their front office. So we'll let them figure that out.
We'll be interested to see what they do because they've got an interesting question here. So we'll see what happens. Now, what about the Bulls? You might asking. Well, like I said, they're at number 11. They really don't have much to choose from, and like we said, I mean the draft isn't so. I know I've seen a couple of mock drafts. Dalton Knecht from Tennessee. I mean, I'm fascinated by that. That's an interesting player that they would get. He's a big guy that can both shoot from the inside and the outside. Again, that's assuming that he stays in the draft. So we'll just kind of see. But yeah, I mean, if you're the Bulls, you're kind of like stuck in limbo.
They need an impact player that's going to help this roster out now. I don't know if you caught the clip of Casey Johnson from NBC Sports Chicago. He was on Mully and Hall on 670 The Score in Chicago earlier today, and he was talking about the Zach LaVine situation. And I don't know if he's going to be traded on draft night. I'm talking about LaVine. He's currently out with an injury, but he should be ready to go by next season, whether he's here in Chicago or not. But he says that their relationship between him and that front office is all but over. Just paraphrasing here, it's not a question of if, it's a matter of question of when, WHEN, when he gets traded from this Bulls team. And if that's the case, do you pair him with that number 11 pick, which I doubt, or do you pair him with Alex Caruso, in my opinion, who brings the most value via trade on this team, or Ayo Dosunmu? I think that's a $64 million question here.
And remember, too, apparently, I guess Mark Eversley is the one of the finalists for that Pistons GM job. So he might, AK might be having another number 2 guy. So that's something to look out for as well. So we're gonna just see what the Bulls do here, because they've got a lot to think about. So and look, if you put in that LaVine with the number 11 pick, maybe a future first rounder, because I don't know if they want to trade either Kobe White or Ayo. Especially Ayo, that's going to send Bulls fans into a tizzy. So, I think you're going to have to be, AK's going to be a little bit creative. We'll see what he does with that number 11 pick.
Yeah, but if you're the Bulls, if you want to get out of NBA mediocrity, you're going to have to make a big move. Like you said, you don't want to trade Kobe White. You definitely don't want to trade Ayo, but one of those guys got to go. And as we mentioned before, they're $1 million below the salary cap line. So, you cannot bring this exact team back. And so AK and Mark Eversley going to have a big decision to make. The draft is in 6 weeks, I believe. And so free agency is July 1st, I should say. Free agency is July 1st. So the Bulls, they already know it now that with them being at number 11 for this upcoming draft, they got some tough decisions ahead.
All right, so we got a couple more minutes here before we get into take another break. So the Bronny James thing, like I said on Twitter that I wasn't going to say anything. I think he could have benefited for another year in college, but again, that's just me. So we're just to see if some other guys. I know Hunter Dickinson. His name. I know he took his name out, so he's going back to Kansas. So I think he have until this week. I think it's like next week sometime. I think like next Wednesday is the last day where college players can pull out. So like I said, some of the names are being thrown out there. Kyle Flakowski. I talk about Donovan Kennett. You'll be just see if those guys decide to pull their name out of the draft. So again, all this is kind of pending on if some of those guys decide to stay. So we're just see what they do here. So Terrence Shannon Jr. out of Illinois. Is he a lottery pick? Will he stay there? I know he has something else going on off the court. We won't get into that, but that may have a big impact on if he stays in the draft or not. But as of right now, he's a potential candidate to get selected in the draft. So, like you said, we have some secondary names, no disrespect to them, but we don't have that clear number 1 pick like we had in years past. But I don't think it means it's necessarily a bad thing, but it has to make GMs do their job that much harder. Yeah,
you got to do their work that much more to see what your scouting skills are really like.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of 6, and I think in some cases even 7-year guys. Yeah, you'll see those little sprinkles of guys that probably decide not to go to college and just play professionally, and we were probably going to see that this year too. Got guys, international guys as well. So I know people will say, "Oh, there's not that Victor Wembanyama. Congrats to him for Madison Morning Rookie of the Year." Not surprised. But yeah, I mean, I know people want to say, "Oh, it's so boring." Like, okay, which is it? Pick a side. Like, if you want guys that are just fresh out of high school or overseas, whatever, or you get a 5th or 6th year guy that actually has the talent, actually is a little bit fundamentally sound and skilled. And if you're Tristan Newton or Donovan Clingan, you got a couple of national championships under belt down from UConn. That's not necessarily a bad thing. So I'm like, pick a side. People are like, good grief, all you so-called hoops experts. My God.
And if you're a team that selected one of these top guys with the top, if you won these teams with the top 13 picks in this year's draft, you really got to know the strengths, the strength of your team, and you got to select the right player that's going to fit that system.
impact players right away as well. So 6 weeks before the draft, we'll probably talk more about the draft as it gets closer and closer. So to be continued, as they say. All right, so last half hour of the show coming up next. We do that hockey as we go to the Stanley. Yes, a veteran gets his nice new fresh paper. Also, to a couple of college football games for the primetime Saturday night games for the Big Ten on NBC, and a whole lot more. Lakeem McGee, Sidney Brown, of course, Old School TV Monday. Can't forget that. Lakeem McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. More fun as we wrap up. Coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid Deslakina. This is our last break of the show for today. So you have any last minute questions or comments, you please show us your love by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And you can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my King McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kiosk on the IG.
And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago's programming, not only Second City Sports, but Sean and Maya in the morning, the Small Fellas and What's Up Cubs. They're on tonight. And you can go to Roku TV, live in 11 color, for all the sports programming from Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, we're gonna have more of this stuff here as we do that hockey. We talk some Stanley Cup playoffs, and Vancouver take a 2-1 lead in the Western Conference semifinals. I know they said second round, but it is a Western Conference semifinals over Edmonton 4-3. I saw a little bit of this game last night, and there was a little bit of a tip that happened after that game. So you tell these two teams don't like each other, but yeah,
you don't say.
Yeah, I mean, it was really Canucks. They were kind of jumped on Connor McDavid, both literally and figuratively at the end of the game. You saw the end of it, but yeah, they were able to hold on against the Oilers and get that 2-1 lead.
Yeah, Vancouver really controlled the pace throughout the early part of that game. I know Edmonton try to make a comeback late, but Vancouver held on. But we all know when it's a long playoff series, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs, tensions emerge and physicality bumps up a little bit more. We'll talk about another game that showed the example of that in just a moment. But the Vancouver Canucks, I thought, controlled the majority of the game. Lakina, in the faceoff department, they were plus 10 at 38 faceoffs, 1-28 of Edmonton's, and also in the blocked shots, Vancouver had 23. The Edmonton Oilers had 6. I thought that was one of the main keys to why that Edmonton lost last night. Vancouver did the little things while Edmonton was trying to chase to get back into the game. They were playing on their heels. Vancouver set the tempo, and they were rewarded with that 1-goal win.
Yeah, really, they kind of set the pace early on, and so they were kind of able to sort of kind of hold off Edmonton after they scored that opener. But then after that, it was basically all Vancouver. I know, like we said, the Oilers did try to come back, but it was too late. So I look forward to seeing how they do in a couple of days, because if you're Edmonton, you don't want to be down 3-1 going back to Vancouver. That place is going to be rocking if that happens. So if you're Edmonton, you want to try to kind of set the tone early in Game 4. So we'll see what happens.
As we talked about before, there's a different contrast between these two teams. With Vancouver, they're a young team, and sometimes you don't know. You're not supposed to, quote unquote, stay in your place. You're supposed to take your lumps to go home. But sometimes with a young team, when they have so much confidence, they take advantage of it. They ride it out until the ride ends. And for Edmonton, also too, they turned the puck over a lot last night, and you cannot win too many games in the playoffs to turn the puck over. And like I said before, it comes down to the little things. Vancouver did that, Edmonton didn't. So, like you said, Lakina, next game, Edmonton has to win, because if you go down 3-1 against this young group, not saying that you can't come back, but it's going to be awfully tough.
And they take after their coach, talking about the Canucks. So if you guys seen Rick Tocchet play back in the day,
yes,
not necessarily like that kind of thing that happens now, because they can't do that anymore. I'm sure he hates that, but they're kind of showing a little bit of brassiness, a little bit of toughness, and they've been able to kind of wear out Edmonton. So we'll see if that continues.
All right, let's go to Bingtown, where the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers got it on last night in Game 4. Boston took an early 2-0 lead in the game, but the Florida Panthers said, we're coming back, and they did by beating the Bruins on their home ice 3-2 in Game 4. Now the Panthers have a commanding 3-1 series lead. Remember, it was the reverse a year ago. Lakina, Boston had a 3-1 series lead. They lost it. And then now this year, the Florida Panthers, it's a whole different story. Lakina, I watched that game on replay this morning. Boston ramped up their physicality, but it did not bother the Panthers. I know Brad Marchand is out for the Boston Bruins, but Florida is just they're staying in the fight. They're not going to get into Boston's tactics. Remember, we talked about last week after the end of Game 2, David Pastrnak of the Bruins asked his coach if he could fight. He did. Thank goodness he didn't get hurt in the process. But Boston is trying to play the I'm not going to say bully ball, but bully hockey. Florida's not going for it. Florida's staying within their game, and they were rewarded last night, coming back from 2-0 to win Game 4. And this is Florida's 5th come from behind win in the playoffs, trailing by multiple goals. This is the 5th win coming from behind, trailing by 2 goals or more in franchise history.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that there was no panic. Like as when Boston went up 2-0 at the end of the first period, you didn't see any panic from Florida. I'm like, okay. So they were able to kind of come back. Sam Bennett had that, you saw that great goal that that power play goal at the beginning of the third. And of course, the game winner was Alexander Barkov had that game winner a few minutes later, which ended up being the game winner, I should say. So are we going to see it? Can it happen again? Can the Bruins come back from 3-1?
It's going to be awfully tough given the circumstances last night. And also, I wanted to point this out. Giveaways. Boston had a +4 advantage over Florida, 13-9. The Bruins were very sloppy after that first period. I'm talking about taking care of the puck. In Florida, they were very aggressive. Like I said, they didn't get into the physicality of the Bruins. They stayed within their game. They found some holes in their Bruins defense, and they came out with the win.
We'll see if they can they do, like I said, can the Bruins do the reverse? Yeah, it's going to be tough though, so we'll see. We'll talk a little bit more of that in a bit here. Rangers, they didn't get the sweep against Carolina. I mean, Carolina did what they were supposed to do. I mean, look, they needed that win, and they had to get it, and they got it. And it wasn't like that they just blew them out. I'm talking about the current Hurricanes. I mean, it was kind of back and forth for a little bit. It was tied, and then Brace Skichel had the game winner with about 3 minutes, just a little under 4 minutes left in the game, to seal that win for Carolina. So if you're the Rangers, you don't want to have to come back to the sheet. Go back to, you want to try to get this win. Come back home to MSG, try to get the win, seal it. You don't want to get the Hurricanes any kind of momentum. Try to put this away tonight.
Also, too, going back to Game 4, we talked about this before the series started, Kenny. We said it was going to be physical, and it's going to come down to special teams via the power play. The Rangers 0-for-1, Carolina 1-for-2, and the Hurricanes out-hit the Rangers 28-24 with a +4 advantage. So Carolina played with more desperation, obviously trailing 3-0 in the series. And like you said, they were rewarded with a power play goal that turned out to be the difference in the game. So Carolina, they need to set the tone tonight and do not turn the puck over and don't take any dumb penalties. If they can do those three things, they can squeak out a win at MSG. Remember what happened in Game 2? It was a deflating loss. They controlled the majority of their game, but that third period got away from them. And, of course, they lost in double overtime. So Carolina, they do have some momentum, even though they trailed 3-1 in the series. They can play with the Rangers, especially MSG, but they got to play on their heels once again tonight, but they got to play smart.
Yeah, and I think that's and we know they can do that. We've seen them do it all year long. So hopefully we can kind of get it going tonight. Because like you said, if Carolina ends up pulling off the upsets, someone's gonna have to call somebody. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here. Now, Colorado and Dallas. Dallas just dominated Colorado 4-1 on Saturday, and it was basically. I don't want to say it was over with, but yeah, I mean, Tyler Seguin, who he's this is his first rodeo, so he got a couple of goals there in that dominating win. They just dominated the Avs, and that game was over with by the second period. I kind of turned the game off, so it was just brutal. Like that game was just like it was all Dallas. It was just not good, as they say.
Yeah, as we said, coming into the series, both teams can put the biscuit in the basket. They can both light up the net. But as you mentioned, the Dallas Stars have been doing that more consistently throughout the series. If you really want to make the argument, and if you seriously can, they should be up 3-0 in this series if it wasn't for them blowing their 4-goal lead at the end of Game 1. So Dallas has clearly outplayed Colorado in this series for the majority of this series, except for that third period in Game 1. The shorthanded, not the shorthanded, but the power play opportunities have been few and far between. That's what happens during the playoffs. But in terms of blocked shots, Dallas had the +10 advantage over Colorado at 24-14. That's very key, especially during the playoffs. And we have goal scorers like Robertson and Jamie Benn. Let's not forget about him, along with Tyler Seguin. You could do some things. You could set the tone for the game, and that's what Dallas did.
Yeah, I could definitely say that. I'm sure they're smart. They probably are a little bit miffed that they're not up 3-0, but they're up 2-1, and hopefully, look, tonight, You got both these games are on ESPN, by the way. 6 o'clock, you got the Carolina, the Hurricanes and the Rangers. The Rangers will once again try to put this series away. That'll be at 6. Also, after that game, the doubleheader, you got the Stars and the Avs. Avs looking to tie this series up at 2.
Big game for the Avs tonight, which we talked about just a moment ago. They got embarrassed on Saturday night at home. So this is a big bounce-back game for them.
Big game. You got the Tuesdays games for tomorrow, Sid.
Yes, Tuesday on ESPN at 6 o'clock, we'll have Game 5 of the Bruins-Panthers series, of course. As of this live broadcast, the Boston Bruins trail this series 3-1. Florida will try to close it out on home ice there. It'll be followed by Canucks and Oilers Game 4 from Vancouver. Vancouver released their best-of-7 series 2-1. That's at 8:30 p.m. also on ESPN.
And on Wednesday, also on ESPN at 7, we'll see if will it be Dallas trying to put the game away, the series away, I should say, or will it be a pivotal Game 5 as they host Colorado once again at Game 5 at 7 o'clock on ESPN.
And on Thursday, to be announced, the Western Conference second round series between the Oilers and Canucks. It'll be Game 6 from Vancouver. But at 6 o'clock on TNT, the Rangers and Hurricanes will do battle in Game 6 from Raleigh, South Carolina. That game will be necessary if Carolina wins tonight.
And that is your schedule for this week in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Social Chicago. Like Keenan McGee, Sydney Brown with you. Now, some NFL news just came across here about a half hour ago. Let me see if I can get it up here. According to Ian Rappaport, All-Pro safety Antoine Winfield Jr. and the Bucs have struck a deal, and they'll be the highest defensive back salary. He's a 4-year, $84.1 million with $45 million guaranteed. So, Mr. Winfield, of course, a 2-time All-Pro, has got fresh paper.
Yes, congratulations to him. As you mentioned, that half that contract is guaranteed, and he is now the highest paid defensive back in the game. He had a good year last year for Tampa Bay, helping them to win the NFC South and helping them to almost get to the NFC Championship game. And so Tampa Bay, they're making moves right now. I don't know if they resigned Mike. I think they did resign Mike Evans. I know they brought that back in Mayfield. And so you had that nucleus there. I want to bring it home to Chicago, if I may. I'm not worried about Stevenson, their defensive back. He's still got a few years to go before he's asking for fresh paper. But with GM Ryan Poles, I'm worried about Jaquan Brisker and Kyle Gordon. I know both of them are entering their third years. You don't have to worry about them yet, but around this time next year, especially if both those guys have great years, because I know all the expectations are high on Caleb Williams and the offensive side of the ball. But the defense is expected to do well this year as well. Let's just say that one of both Kyle Gordon and Jaquan Brisker both had great years. You don't think they're looking at this Antoine Winfield situation and say, hey, not now, but maybe after this season, perhaps going into next year, we want some contract extensions too. If you GM Ryan Poles, you monitoring the situation as well.
Well, and also too, of course, he has like we've been saying, he has the ability to kind of back up getting that big contract. He's been to a couple of been about 3 or 4 Pro Bowls. He is a 2-time All-Pro, and I think he definitely could feel like he's kind of earned that contract. So I think if you want to be worthy of that, you kind of have to get that extra, the extra stuff in your resume, and that's how he was able to kind of get that contract. So we'll see. Eric Washington, will, like I said when he got named, will he only be the DC in name only? Will Flus be the one to call the plays? So I'm kind of like, I guess he can. Look, Jalen Johnson deserved the extra paper that he got. But again, I think everyone else, you have to kind of wait and see how you guys do this, how they do this season.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can do. But like I said before, if you're Jaquan Brisker and Kyle Gordon, you waiting on your paydays, assuming you have good years, and that should this team make the playoffs and both those guys even make the Pro Bowl, their price tag will go that much more.
Should be interesting to see what happens there. Now, let's start with the NFL. NBC has acquired the extra, of course, around the Christmas time, they always have those extra regular season games. Well, Don't worry, folks. December 21st, my birthday, by the way. NBC will get the extra NFL regular season game that will be on NBC, streaming on Peacock, and also on Telemundo. So you'll have to actually be able to watch the games in Spanish for all you Spanish speaking of viewers out there and listeners. So yeah, for all that they're complaining about, Netflix and Prime Video. Okay, well, you know what? Here, it's going to be on NBC this extra Saturday December game. So now you guys have to worry about that.
I know that people were complaining about the long playoff. The regular season game between Buffalo and the Los Angeles Chargers at the end of the year. I know the game didn't mean much to the Chargers, but it meant the world to Buffalo. But it was only streamed on Peacock, and many people complained about that. They complained about the Kansas City Chiefs in the Dolphins playoff game last year. Even though it wasn't a great game, it did great numbers, so that's why this deal is happening. But whether we like it or not, looking at business-wise, it makes sense. I know streaming is the name of the game is here. We got to accept it whether we like it or not. But as we always say, people want and need options. So, and I'm just wondering that are we I don't want to say over-consuming, but are we relying too much on streaming? I know it's a new thing, and that's what many people, especially on younger demographic, does. But are we relying on them on the streaming services just a little bit too much?
Maybe. I mean, look, I know some people will say, will we eventually have a Super Bowl streaming, on Peacock or whatever, or Hulu? Look, I think the linear television is where it's at. We know that's what Madison Avenue wants. That's what advertisers want. So the linear stuff's not going to go away. I think for people to say, it's going to be a thing of the past in the next 5 to 10 years, I just don't see it. People are not going to want to have to break the habit of cutting the cord. I mean, you look at all this stuff now. I know someone had a breakdown of cable or whatever stream where you have YouTube TV or whatever Sling.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Netflix, and you got Peacock, and you've got Prime. So I think for people who wonder, well, hell, I should have just kept my cable bill, really. So it's gonna be
like I'm doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how all this kind of shakes out, especially in the next couple of years, where we're going to be seeing more streaming services getting these games, not just NFL, but maybe the NBA, maybe college football. We'll get to that in a second. They got a couple of games already out as well. College hoops. I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of run amok, probably. But look, this is what y'all get for cutting the cord.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, are we overflowing the market with these streaming services? You just named about 5-6 streaming services, and I know that we talked about it before on this show. If you have one streaming service but it doesn't have a specific channel that you're looking for, you got to go pay for another service that has that channel. So is it overconsumption to a degree? Yes, but how much will people have to pay to get all their channels on one like you do on linear cable for the most part? On linear cable like I have, if you want to pay for a specific channel and it's not on your basic cable, you have to pay a little extra, which makes sense. But, on these streaming services, if you don't have the 1 or 2 channels on there, you got to go pay for another one. I think it just gets too much for consumers over time. And so I think we know that streaming is here to stay, whether you like it or not. But you shouldn't have to pay for 3 or 4 or 5 streaming services just to get everything you want. That's just my opinion.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I think it's kind of silly. And it's going to be interesting to see how all this is going to shake out down the line, especially. So, this is going to be the thing here for a little bit, especially with this new TV deal. So, it's going to, the market's going to be there. So, we'll see if folks bite on it.
All right, Second City Sports. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on this Monday afternoon. See Lakina hanging out here with you. Lakina, you're the college sports queen. You said you had some news about NBC's college football coverage on Peacock.
Well, also on NBC as well. This is going to be their Saturday night Saturday night games for the Big Ten. August 31st. It'll be Fresno State against the defending national champion Michigan, of course. Jerome Moore, the new head coach there. This will be his first big test.
Glad he got a job.
Yeah. And also, too, September 7th, which is Labor Day weekend, you've got old Big 8/Big 12 rivals facing each other. Time I'm assuming it's gonna be like 7 Central Time, 8 Eastern Time. It'll be Coach Prime's Colorado Buffaloes as they go to Lincoln to face Nebraska. They've had their various battles. Yeah, they've had their various battles in the 90s, in the 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s. So they've already announced some of their games. So should be a good one here coming up on NBC primetime Big Ten Saturday nights.
Yeah, remember Fox benefited from Aaron Deion Sanders' team, Colorado, for the first few weeks of the season last year. They got huge ratings. I know NBC is trying to cash in to start their coverage this year. Remember, Lakina, last year, Nebraska gave Colorado all they had last year before Colorado pulled away. So I want to see how Colorado looks this year. Shedeur Sanders should be one of the top candidates for the Heisman Trophy. Hopefully they have an offensive line to go along with him. Hopefully Travis Hunter will be healthy. And they need a running game, and they need a defensive unit that can stop people. If they can get those things, I think Deion Sanders and crew will have a better season, even though they're in the Big 12 now.
Yeah, because you know that they're going to be facing some tough teams in that Big 12. Of course, you got BYU, Cincinnati. You still got both the Kansas schools to contend with. Kansas especially. Lance Leopold's got a nice program going there. They're kind of I don't know if they're going to challenge Bill Self to be like kind of supremacists there in that department. But it's going to be tough adjustment in that Big 12. So they actually play defense in the Big 12. So we'll see what happens.
See what I mean?
So yeah, it should be interesting. Anything else before the Old School TV Monday?
What I was getting ready to say, because I saw a headline here. Now, I don't know if you saw it. I was scrolling through my phone right now. Oh, congratulations. Before I get to this other thing, congratulations to Kevin Harlan of TNT, of course. He was honored by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, they're celebrating their 35th season in the NBA. Of course, He was their first full-time announcer from 1989 to 89-90 season through the 97-98 season. He was given a plaque jersey with his name on, I believe, at during the halftime ceremony of last night's Game 4 of the Denver-Minnesota series in the playoffs. So if you guys don't know of his work when he was doing it with the Minnesota Timberwolves for the first 9 years, go on to YouTube. Those clips are classic.
Yes, they are. And I saw there were a couple of big does from J.R. Ryder. Wonder what he's up to these days. Had some big, dunks there. Of course, Christian Laettner for those first few years in his NBA career. Tom Gutiala, who I heard he's actually doing
Gooey, baby.
Yeah, I think he's down in Phoenix now, in Arizona. I think he works for the Suns front office. I think so, or lives around that area. Yeah, of course, Kevin Garnett, of course, he kind of led sort of gave him to another level. But please, guys, please watch those classic Kevin Harlan Timberwolves games. Those things, oh my God, there are a couple of buzzer beaters. You're like, yeah, you thought that Jamal Murray stare down with him was actually interesting. Some of those others were even better than those. So,
yes.
You guys check them out.
Yeah, and don't forget he did the first 2 years of Stephon Marbury's career as well before he left for Turner to work there full time. He's been there ever since. But Lakina, I saw this recently. Yeah,
it's CBS too. Don't forget.
Yeah, and also too, I saw this recently, Lakina, and I forgot about this. I know for sure I forgot about this, but do you remember a game between the Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Pistons back in 1993?
I think I know where you're going with this.
Marv Albert was supposed to call that game that day for NBC, but they put a young Kevin Harlan in his place. I definitely forgot about that.
Yeah, I did not. Yeah, I did not.
Hold on, so I can put that up for the full game on YouTube. Just saying.
Yeah, I think it is on there. Yeah, but you saw some of those highlights. You got a chance to call out a couple of Jordan dunks, so that was pretty interesting. But I mean, look, this guy's Mr. Harlan's been around a long time. And I'm glad I'm glad the team was honoring him, and that was actually really cool to see. I saw a little bit of that yesterday during that game.
Yeah, and I saw this headline too before we go to Old School TV Monday. The late Chris Mortensen of ESPN, who passed away a few months ago, he almost left ESPN to take a front office job with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. I'm like, okay, that would have been interesting if he had taken the job instead of staying with ESPN. I mean, maybe the Jaguars could have went to a couple of Super Bowls. Maybe. Yeah, look, he had a great football mind. God rest his soul.
Yeah. And probably been in a much better position than Tom Coughlin, but who knows? Tom Coughlin is the front office person before he stepped down a couple of years ago. But we'll never know. This is all those classic what ifs.
Gotta love a good what if there. You gotta have a good sports is
Yeah.
always full of what ifs, so you wonder. So yeah, that was interesting. That tidbit that came out over earlier this morning. I saw that. I'm like, oh yeah, that would have been interesting if he had done that. What if?
Yep. What if? All right, Lakina, it's that time as we do around this time to close out the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports All Chicago. It is now time for Old School TV Monday. We're going to take it back to 1993 and pay homage to the city of brotherly love. In the fall of 1993, the Philadelphia Phillies were on their way to winning the NL East before falling to the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. The Philadelphia 76ers were about to start their first season without Charles Barkley. They were about to start their second year without Charles Barkley. The Philadelphia Flyers, they were struggling with soon-to-be injured star Eric Lindros. And the football team still had Randall Cunningham, unfortunately, on his last years with that team because he was injured 2 out of those 3 years. And the TV show that was based out of that city was called, you can guess.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that was me. I thought you were just gonna say it. No, not Fresh Prince. That was like a few years before the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I forgot the name of it.
Boy Meets World.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Boy Meets World was an American coming-of-age sitcom created by Michael Jacobs and April Kelly that aired on ABC for 7 seasons between September of 1993 and May of 2000. The series centered around Corey Matthews and his friends and family as he progresses from childhood to adulthood. Episodes chronicled the everyday events of Corey's home and school life. His teacher and the neighbor, George Feeney, delivers life lessons as Corey learns to cope with the social and personal issues of adolescence. Corey had a strong relationship with his older brother, Eric, younger sister, Morgan, and his parents, Amy and Alan. Corey's friendship with Sean Hunter and the romantic interest in Topanga Lawrence served as the central focus of the episodes. The overachieving themes included a focus on family and friendships, as well as discovering one's identity. Featured characters were introduced in later seasons: Jonathan Turner, Eli Williams, Jack Hunter, Angela Moore, and Rachel McGuire. The Walt Disney Company commissioned the series for its youth-oriented TGIF programming block airing on ABC. The Jacobs had previously produced Dinosaurs for the block and was asked to create a new series for 12 to 14-year-old audience. Savage was under contract with ABC at the time, and Jacobs chose to include him as the central character. Boy Meets World was produced by Michael Jacobs Productions and Touchstone Television. It premiered on ABC on September 24th, 1993. The series concluded on May 5th, 2000 as a result of the aging cast and a shift in the network's programming directives. And the anniversary was last week. Lakina had a chance to watch that episode. I remember that series finale. Of course, the great Mr. Feeney said after all the students hugged him, he couldn't show his emotions in front of the kids. I love you all.
Yeah, that was really sweet. I mean, when the series first premiered, I remember it was a little more playful, a little bit more, kind of like, the goofiness of, Corey Matthews, only 12 years old. And now as the series, progressed, I think it became more mature, the mature theme, of course, like you said, the Topanga, his relationship with Topanga kind of came to focus there from near the end, from like I said, the third season to like the end of the series. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. Of course, you had Minkus. You can't forget about Mr. Minkus, the super smart kid that got written out. I think after the second season. But yeah, I mean, look, it dealt with like lessons. It dealt with drinking. It dealt with the cult episode. If you remember that episode with Sean.
Oh yeah, he's trying to find a meaning, a purpose in life, i.e., religion.
Yeah,
I remember
Jerry
that.
Levine. Yeah, Jerry Levine played that shady character there. Played it very well, actually. But yeah, I mean, look, you got a lot of great peripheral characters, of course, like Mr. Turner, Mr. Williams, Angela. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that Trina McGee Davis, who of course played Angela, has come out in recent years saying she never really have a good experience on the show for the most part. Look up Google some of the podcasts she's done over the years.
Yeah, she was treated as an equal, at least on screen anyway.
Yeah, so it was that what happened off camera, but I guess you never know what's going on off behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, I know Maitland Ward, who I loved on Bold, she came on later on in those later seasons. It was great. You got Matthew Lawrence to play Sean's half brother, which was really cool. I mean, they dealt with death, they dealt with just family adolescence, I guess, growing up and whatnot. I always say Alan Matthews is a very underrated TV dad. He doesn't get his due. He was kind of that right mix of, he didn't get too upset, but he didn't kind of let you get away with murder either. Same thing with with Amy Matthews. So they were actually really great TV parents. I feel like they don't get their due. William Daniels is still doing it. He's still working. At 98, he and his wife Bonnie Bartlett, who's also, I think she's like 96. They're still doing their thing. But yeah, like they're all doing pretty well. And of course, I know Girl and Meets World, it was a spinoff, but yeah, that didn't really take off. So that ended up there on the Disney Channel. But yeah, I think the mainstay of the show, I think, was really, it kind of had a good mix of kind of like as it got older, it dealt with mature themes. They did it pretty well.
And that's when I picked up on the series, looking and like you said, I remember the beginning. I was like, beginning of the series, the first couple, I was like, I don't know if I like this, but once they got into the later years in high school, of course, their last season they were in college before they went off the air. I was like, I really did this show, so I'm gonna stick with that. Of course, I had a big crush on Daniel Fisher, aka Topanga Lawrence. Remember they did during the last year, they did an episode when they was talking about body, no, I won't say body shaming, but the body issues, and it was centered around her. I was like. And this was, I'm not saying it wasn't a big issue back then. It was. Unfortunately, it's more of a big issue now thanks to social media. But I was like, you really picking on her? I got why they did the episode. But I was like, she's nothing really good compared to what we have as the quote-unquote norm today. So, but, those were the times back then. Of course, they dealt with interracial relationships, of course, with Angela and Sean. But speaking of Trina McGee Davis, I didn't know she was in her 50s. She still looks good for her age.
Yeah, she was like her late early 30s. I think she's like 30 or 32 when she first joined. I know it's kind of weird, how that worked out, but it was kind of odd. She was among she was definitely the oldest among the kids, if you will, in the cast. So it's interesting there. But let me see what else. Eric, the character of Eric. My gosh.
I don't want to say cornball, but he was the punchline of the show issues is I'll put it.
Well, yeah, which is unfortunate because Will Friedle is actually one of the smartest guys like you'll ever meet. He's actually made a nice little career doing voiceovers after the show ended. So the fact that they kind of turned his character, like the first couple of years, he's actually pretty, he was kind of like the old, like the goofy older brother. He was actually pretty smart. Now they turned him into like a total goofball. Which I didn't like. So he played it well, but maybe a little too well, I guess. But they weren't afraid to spoof themselves. Remember that I Know What You Did Last Summer episode with Jennifer Love Hewitt? She appeared on there because she and Friedle were dating at the time. You remember that episode? That was actually pretty funny. Yes,
classic.
Yeah, another one of the classic episodes. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it dealt with a good mix of various issues. They did it in a very funny way. And it kind of it's like you said, I mean, as the series grew, they started dealing with more mature subject, of course, marriage and they're dealing with stuff after marriage and breakups and makeups and such. So I just think it's series that kind of aged well, I think.
It did, and we saw the main cast of those of the stars of that show really grow up right in front of our eyes, and so it's very underrated in my opinion. But I'm glad to see it started to get its flowers now, thanks to social media and forms like rebroadcasting on like YouTube.
Yeah, and I think Daniel Fisher actually does a podcast, I believe. She's been doing it for the last. I think she's been since the pandemic. So she actually does talk about the episode you're talking about with the body ages. She actually all of them actually aged pretty well. So
yes,
all of them. So so they actually all look really good. So I know they did like a kind of a mini reunion during the pandemic and such. So that's when all the stuff about Trina said what went on behind the scenes. So, but I think everyone kind of apologized. They all kind of hugged it out. So I guess that's a good thing, I guess. But it's streamed pretty much everywhere now. I think I think it's on Max, I believe. I think it's on Max. It's on Hulu. I think it has it as well. I know you can.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think Pluto TV has it on there somewhere, and also too it says on TV Plus. So it's streaming somewhere, folks. So you can definitely check it out. And of course, YouTube has a lot of the episodes. Well, not the full episode. I think a lot of the clips. So I've noticed.
Yeah. Like I said, the anniversary was last week, and I saw a clip on my Instagram feed. So I said, it's time to salute this series. So for this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the 90s TV sitcom from TGIF blogger back in the day, Boy Meets World. Lakina, take us home.
This boy meets world. I can't sing it. No, I'm not even going to. You follow that Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and going in the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Don't forget to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And don't forget to give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance. Your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Don't forget to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday, live from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can get Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV, whatever device you've got, whatever Play Store that you got, whether it's Google or Apple. If you got the Roku app, whatever device you have, you can type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, and What's Up Cuz, and so much more. The replays, it's all right there for you. All the other great content on Roku TV.
Yep, and we will provide.
Enjoy all the baseball and the playoffs and everything else in between. Also, shout out to Rory McIlroy for winning this 4th Quail Hollow championship down there in North Carolina, just outside Charlotte. It's his 26th, I think, PGA Tour title, so I'm sure he's going to get a lot of momentum going into the PGA Championship this weekend. So enjoy all of that. I know the weather's supposed to be nice the rest of the week, so don't act like fools, folks. So just be safe out there. For Sid, I'm Kansas, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.